Okay, if you're a FUJIFILM X-T2 owner, I strongly suggest you watch this because you won't find this information anywhere else. Okay, let's first talk about a couple of Nissan Speedlights, and then I'm going to tell you what's going on. Fuji released the firmware 1.10 for the X-T2, 24 hours ago? Or was it 48 hours ago? Anyway. What that did, number one, I'm going to get the three important points, is that it gave, if you have one of the Nissan i40 Speedlights, you have full TTL function capability, no high-speed sync. There is currently no Nissan Speedlight that has high-speed sync capability with the Fuji X-T2. I am and have been in contact with the importer of the Nissan Speedlights here in the USA. Not some flunky that works like in customer service, but the head honcho. I don't want to mention his name. I talked to him today and a couple weeks ago. No, I don't get anything from them. He said that the units, the air units, by the way, are going to be shipping this week. Direct quote from him. The air units will let you do... this is version 4 firmware on all the i60A Nissan Speedlights, which means you already have full TTL capability. These are radio wireless units as they currently exist. The air units, which are going to be $90, $89, I believe, those are shipping this week. I have already pre-ordered one. I should be one of the first knuckleheads in the USA to have one. I've talked to a few people that were testing a prototype version over a month ago. Apparently it works perfectly. I'll be the first to get that, and I will do in-depth reviews and rake it over the coals for you and go over it. I have full confidence in the people that actually did test it, who don't work for the company. So I will have that, and that will give you full wireless and not optical, because the Fuji Speedlight, the EFX500, is going to be optical, and you're going to have two of them for them to communicate wirelessly to the second one. So that's a big bummer, right? Especially since it's an expensive Speedlight. With a Nissan i60A with the air unit for the Fuji, you can operate multiple units, and I was told by the head honcho for the importer of the Nissan Speedlights that high-speed sync capability for the i60A would be somewhere around about mid-December or so. That will require a firmware upgrade that you cannot do. You would have to send the units in. So in other words, it will require firmware different than the version 4 that exists on currently on the i60A. Now, there are some of these that are not running, some people that got some early versions of these that are not running version 4 firmware. And the firmware is a possibility, since I don't own one of those units, may not work in TTL with the new Fujifilm firmware, but almost everybody that has, basically everybody, let's just put it that way, that has an i60A is running version 4 firmware. And you already have a full TTL capability. None of that changed. Okay, I actually love this unit because I don't have to take my eye off the viewfinder, and I could actually do a flash compensation simply by looking through the viewfinder and counting the clicks, and I can chimp through my viewfinder. So that's wonderful. Absolutely love this Speedlight. It is radio controlled off the air that will be shipping, quote, this week. The Fuji units were delayed because they're made by Metz, they're not made by Fuji, and the units were catching on fire, as was reported like a month and a half or 2 months ago by Fuji Rumors, I believe. Yeah, I did believe Fuji Rumors is the people that posted that. Yeah, I'm certain now. I am forgetful like that. But now the wonderful news, if you have an i40, which I do, and I've had one of these little suckers, 40 guide number, 60 guide number. The i40 now, wonderfully, with the new Fuji firmware, and the reason Fuji did this is because their Speedlight unit has been heavily delayed. Fuji's like, my bad, and what they are doing in the meantime, they're already shipping the EFX500s in Europe, and they're going to soon be, they're supposed to have already been shipping in the United States. But now these will work in full TTL mode, full manual mode, and a TTL with compensation. Automatic. The A on the i40 is basically TTL. The TTL switch is TTL that lets you do flash compensation via the dial over here on the right. The A is TTL that lets you do flash compensation on the camera, which is a pain in the crotch because you got to hit a bunch of buttons. So it's actually better for me and for anybody to use TTL and actually just dial in flash compensation via the dial on the right. But this i40A now, I've done full testing, and I've got two Fujifilm X-T2s with the new firmware 1.1.0. Works completely awesome, fine, hunky doodle on the X-T2 in TTL and TTL with compensation, and in manual mode. Works perfectly fine. It did not work at all, except in manual mode 48 hours ago, but it does now, so great. And if you have the i40, you're going to have some lovely happiness there with your X-T2. Now these are radio, unlike the optical, like I said, for the Fuji EFX500. Absolutely love this Speedlight. If you want to hold off until mid-December or so, then you could have the i60A with whatever firmware they start including in it. The firmware is not user upgradable, like I said. You would have to be sent back to Nissan USA. But all the current i60As, nothing has changed with the new Fuji firmware. On the X-T2 and version 4 firmware, which is basically all Nissan i60A Speedlights. Highly recommend you get a TTL cable. There's a TTL cable. Fuji uses Fuji's TTL pinouts, and the pinout means the actual pin arrangement. Okay, pin arrangement for flash and high-speed sync compensation and whatnot is a Canon pinout. Okay, there are different pinouts. Fuji is Canon, and Sony has their own, Nikon has their own. So if you're going to get a TTL cable, which I strongly suggest, by the way, the Velo cable is made better than the Canon TTL cable. Fuji does not have a TTL cable, which is a bit stupid on Fuji. I've called Fuji out for that. It's stupid on their part, but no big deal. You can just get the Velo TTL cable, which I should have brought out here to show you, but I've showed you 1,000 times before. Get a Velo TTL cable, but don't get that little short bastard. It's about that big, because you can't get your hand out there. I mean, it's just too damn short. Get the 6-foot one. Okay, it's 6 foot coiled, so it actually comes about yay big, and you get your hand way the hell out there. Everybody needs a TTL cable for their Fuji. Okay, if you don't have one, you're making a big mistake. Even though there's a hot shoe on top of this camera, that is not where you want to stick your Speedlight. Okay, I don't care if it's a Fuji, whatever Speedlight, either the Nissan, a Nikon in manual mode or automatic mode. That hot shoe is not really meant, unless you're a photojournalist or a news photographer, in which case it doesn't matter. The worst lighting in the world is sticking your damn Speedlight right there on your camera. So that's the news on the Nissan i40 with the new Fuji firmware 1.10 for the X-T2. And that's the information on what is going down currently and in the near future on the i60A. The air units will be shipping this week. That is the big word, not from like their customer support or something. That's the word from the head honcho, the big boss, the big cheese, who I will leave unnamed. Out of courtesy, I've been in contact with him for several months now. Love these Speedlights. Yes, I had to pay for them. I'm not giving Nissan or the Nissan importer in the United States a plug. I actually do like them. They're not cheap, but they're also made really well. So they're still a lot cheaper than the Fuji Speedlight. And once the firmware is completely updated for this, it'll have high-speed sync and already does TTL, and this will be radio. Even when the Fujis, they will obviously have immediately high-speed sync, but wirelessly you're going to have to buy 2 of them, and that's a lot of damn money. A lot. And even then, they're not radio, they're optical. So, you don't have to buy 2 of these to get a wireless TTL. Oh, also with the Air, once the Air starts shipping this week, you will have, currently on your current Nissan i60, you will have full wireless TTL. But wireless high-speed sync, I am told, will exist, but this unit will need, high-speed sync is high-speed sync, whether it's wireless or wired. This unit will need a firmware update from the current version 4 that it is currently running. And that's the word from the big cheese, okay? The big boss. Thanks for watching. I'm glad I could be of help and drop you some useful information, because there's a lot of confusion out there right now. And all of this is hardcore information from the source. Not from me, but from the source. From the source to me to you. Okay? Thanks. Bye. Bum, 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 bum.